Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. Yes, therapy is back. If you're listening to us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify and Audio Boom. We're across a range of different audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And you can tell by this very, very downbeat mood here on Last Word on Spurs.
We are soon to be on Channel 5 on Thursday night, Rick. Carry on.
God. And what other channels we might be on? We might be on the horror movie, the way it's going, horror channel, the way it's going with Tottenham, based on that 90 minutes and plus we've just watched. We're back to review Spurs' defeat to Sporting Lisbon, Spurs' first defeat of the season. I'm joined by a panel which I know will be no nonsense and will give us lots and lots of thoughts on the back of a real tepid display from Spurs in the Champions League. Second game already of the group, and I know it's really downbeat. So thank you so much to this wonderful panel for joining us. Thank you so much for the audience, as always, for tuning into a show on the back of that display we've had from Tottenham. Let's discuss who we've got on the show tonight. Joining me from my top right, I've got Jason McGovern back on the show. Jace, thanks so much for coming on. Tough night to come back on after a performance like that. I'm sure we're going to get into it, but got any first thoughts?
Yep. Hello, darkness, my old friends.
God. We haven't gone back to Nuno just yet, but you wouldn't know it based on that 90 minutes. It was a real tough watch.
It was just initial thing. I thought we started each half looking like we were going to press and go on the front foot, but both halves just kind of, we got into drifting mode, and I think they looked at us and thought, well, you're not really hurting us, and took confidence from that. And it's frustrating because I genuinely feel we should go there and win that game. And when they were talking about it being a good point, I think, no, it would be a bad point. We've got to go and win those games. You've got to win. You've got to look to get points in some of those away games, just in case. And we just kind of let it drift. And then that old thing of, if you can't win it, don't lose it. And maybe we just get so much into the feeling of, if you can't win it, don't lose it. We end up inviting ourselves exactly to lose it. And that's what's happened. Just, we had the warning sign with Hugo saved, didn't we? Didn't take heed, get caught from the corner, and then the second goal is pathetic. And, just a bad night now. What was a disappointing night in the performance has become a bad night with the result.
Absolutely. Cracks, I know it's never easy coming back on Last Word on Spurs after having to watch a performance like that. I mean, again, I have to say props to, again, the travelling army of Spurs fans that were there having to watch that display. Really tough. So again, guys, wishing you all the best and safe journey back home to us here for sure. Cracks, initial thoughts?
Rick, it was so poor. Vaz has gone already. He lasted 30 seconds and he's gone. Now, listen, just on a positive, the away fans, yet again, there was thousands out there that have gone out. Electric bills, gas bills are through the roof, and people are finding money to follow Spurs and then get served that up. They didn't even get the weather, did they? They've gone over there and it's just absolutely tipped it down for like 2-3 days. So you haven't even been able to have a bounce up and down in the square and a bit of sun on your back. So, honestly, and the thing is, Rick and everybody, it ain't even Champions League yet. This is a Europa League group. So, and you're offering up. And as Jace said, they were there for the taking. It was like West Ham away again. You looked at them and you thought, they just giving away silly balls in really dangerous positions, that final third. And we just couldn't punish them. We just looked miles off of it. And the other thing, trying to be fair and consistent, Rick, if Mourinho or Nuno had offered that up tonight, we'd be absolutely screaming. So, the honeymoon period with Conte is well and truly over. And, you're going to have to really offer up the same criticism as you would for Mourinho. You've got to take the personality, whether you like a man or not, and leeways and that. That's just not good enough, Rick. That just really is not good enough. And I see Emerson's coming in for some stick, rightly so, but only Emerson, Son again. They were all off of it.
Lots of below par performances there tonight.
All off of it.
I mean, I would say Hugo Lloris really the only man that can come out with any real shred of credibility from that game. I mean, listen, he saved Spurs just before the opening goal so late on in the game, but overall, I mean, performance-wise, we're going to have to offer more than that up, really, if we're being honest, if Spurs are going to progress in this
And
competition.
not the first time, Rick, either. It's been coming, hasn't it? It's been some woeful. The actual football has been woeful. It's been woeful to watch. And, you know, again, at 1,500 quid, £2,000 a season ticket, if you're offering that up, people ain't going to stay interested for long. They're really not. I mean, look, I didn't, off the back of this, everyone's going to go, oh, Cracker's knee-jerking, like he's got the ump because they've lost. But I've been thinking it for a little while. I've just been watching us play and thinking, this just ain't good enough. This isn't entertaining. And when you look back to when Poch was there, it didn't count for a row of beans in the end, did it? He won nothing. But it gave people so many wonderful moments that they fell in love with him and forgave him, because the journey, although we never got to the destination, the journey was incredible moments and incredible scenery. Do you get where I'm coming from? It's like, it's almost Spurs fans, and, you know, I've been one since 75 and Jason, similar sort of vintage. We've always wanted that style and panache and that you know, progressive football. And even if that doesn't mean cups, we almost forgive it. So offering that up, I wonder how long he's going to last if that's what he's going to be offering. Personally, this is me speaking.
Yep.
I'm prepared to give him time, because he said, I need some more windows. I need players that I want. Yep. You know, Royal's got to go. I know I've been saying on here that there's a player. I think there's a player in now. I'd like to retract that, please, because I don't think there is. It's just a dog chasing a balloon. The work's there, but there's just no product.
Yeah. I mean, the hard thing is, what I will say is, listen, we always offer post-match analysis straight after games. So I think for all of us, the emotion, you know, we're all, like I say, blood is boiling to some degree. We've come off and witnessed a really poor performance like that from Spurs. I mean, again, you argue if we recorded in 8 hours' time, would we feel exactly the same? I mean, again, as a show, I will say this, we're very humbled and lucky to have such a big audience that watches and listens to Last Word on Spurs, where it's merely impossible that we're going to please everybody in what we say in terms of for and against when it comes to performances, when it comes to Conte's tactics. But I think the way we want to try and design tonight's show is to really, you know, have a delve into the elements of the tactics, the element of obviously how Spurs are setting up, the overall performance, and then obviously we'll look to Leicester City. We have got Vass back, so I'm going to bring Vass back into the show. Vass's internet, it tried to finish him. I think Vass probably did finish him on the back of that performance. But
it was trying to pull a Sporting Lisbon, you know, I bet it was. Last. It died on me.
I bet it was. Vass, just coming over to you. I mean, we're going to dive into it in a second, but first thoughts, initial thoughts on the back of that game?
To be perfectly honest, I didn't think it was as bad as people were making out initially. I find these European games sometimes can be a little bit frustrating and a little bit tactical and a little bit slow. And I thought in the first half, we did okay, to be perfectly honest. I know we weren't sort of creating chances by the bucket load, but I think we started the first half pretty well. We started the second half pretty well. We created some chances. Unfortunately, they all fell to Emerson. But after that, yeah, we kind of took our foot off the gas. I don't think Sporting really did enough for them to win. I know Marcus Edwards had that dribble and Hugo pulled off a save, but it was looking like a draw all the way. And in the Champions League, you kind of take a draw if you're not playing well. So that's how I saw it initially. But the last few minutes were just disastrous, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, again, that was back to the Spurs of old, the capitulation. You know, the fact of 2 goals being conceded in those last few minutes, the implosion by Spurs. We haven't really seen that under Conte, and that's a worry. I mean, I think we've all said in the last one, Spurs, over the course of the last 3 or 4 games, where you just feel that kind of result had been coming. And despite the fact we've sat here over numerous weeks and said, Spurs, it's great, they're grinding out the results, you know, they're finding a way to win. I think, again, if you go into a game setting up in a manner where you're happy to take a point, I don't know how long you can keep trying to get away with that. And again, Champions League, whatever you think about the opposition tonight, and maybe Cracks is right to some degree there, you know, the opposition that we're facing now, they're not the creme de la creme of Europe, you know, in terms of the Real Madrids, the Barcelona, but they're still a very good team in Sporting Lisbon that have been in and around the Champions League for many, many years. They know how to cope when, you know, teams are pressing them. And in terms of, you know, teams that are looking to break them down. And ultimately, you will get found out in this competition. If you don't give up, if you don't play to 100% of your potential and ability, and we're going to come on to the tactics and the squad selection from Conte, where I know a lot of people were, again, frustrated by maybe the stubbornness there from him. Because I know, again, we've had over about 70, 80 questions in tonight, which, again, I hope you can appreciate, guys. We'd love to go through each and every one, but if we did, there wouldn't really be a show. So we'll try and flavour in as many as we can. Before we do dive in to the synopsis and hopefully offer you some therapy, just a quick reminder, we are delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That is the Beavertown Bank opposite your South Stand. We are excited to get back down there for some amazing screenings of some of Spurs' televised away games. Crack's now back over in Spain, but we have got a live event we're going to be bringing to you very, very soon. Although you might not feel like it tonight, you can, of course, catch all of Spurs' away televised games from the pub by going to beavertownbrewery.co.uk/pages/corner-pin. Right, guys, it is time to get into that result. Jace, let's come over to you. It is Spurs' first defeat of the season. And as I said to you in the intro, that kind of result felt like it had been coming all along. We've been really punished by, an underwhelming performance. And, you can't, as I've just said there in the intro, you can't keep playing this way and expect that we're going to keep grinding out the results. And we have, I believe, Jace, a far better squad than what we're seeing on display at the moment. And Spurs without a win now in their last 6 European games. I mean, do you care to expand on your initial thoughts? Is there more of a concern than what there would have been before the game about how Spurs are playing?
I don't know if it's all down to the tactical thing, because, like I said, I thought we started okay. We looked like we were trying to get on the front foot into their half. Same with the start of the second half. But we weren't really carving them open. And the system, as we know, when we saw it play against Fulham, we were creating chances all game, and we looked really good against Fulham. Tonight, like I say, we got on the front foot early on, but it just drifts. And if you don't have those creative midfielders, and we've talked about whether we should or shouldn't have done one with Eriksen and Maddison and all that, and it's just, he doesn't do that system. So you've got to have the quality from those wide areas. And Perisic again put in, I didn't think Perisic had a great game, but there was still a couple of decent balls going in there. But when you're so reliant on having that creativity from your wing backs, we just don't get it from Emerson Royal. And which makes kind of thing, if you're going to play down the right-hand side and Emerson's not going to create, then you really then miss Kulusevski being on that right-hand side. And we just allow the game to drift. And at no stage does he think of taking Emerson off tonight, which is the disappointing thing. At least with Marseille last week, he took Emerson Royal off for Kulusevski and we brought something down. But it's just the way games are drifting, and with a lack of real, you're allowed to make 5 substitutions, but we just let the game just drift by. And, Højbjerg and Bentancur weren't going to create much from midfield, but he prefers that solidity. But it's nothing's happening, is it? And I still feel that game was there for the taking. It really was. And it didn't need much more of an up in tempo. And as the slower the game gets and the more it drifts, the slower our passing becomes. So even if you make an easy pass to somebody 10 yards away, instead of that real bit of zip to the passing to keep it moving and a yard in front of their foot, it becomes a very slow ball, as if the grass is 2 inches too long to their feet. So there's no real attacking momentum, and then they get it, I can't really take him on now, so I'll go back inside and go back safe. And the safety element then comes into it. So, the motto is always to dare is to do, but we're just not particularly daring enough when we really need to be daring at the moment. And that's part of our problem.
I think it's a fair analysis, Jace. I mean, I really, really do. I mean, you said all the points there that, again, I was criticised in January for keep imploring about January. I was in August for imploring for a central attacking midfielder. Again tonight, I do feel that position is severely lacking for Tottenham. You look at that squad to break someone down, to have that lock picker, someone to play that eye of the needle ball, and we just simply haven't got him in the squad. We really, really haven't. I mean, Vass, coming over to you. I know that's, like I say, you're looking at things a bit more diplomatically in terms of the performance not being as bad as what you feel. But just to put some more context on that, that's Spurs' first defeat since the 16th of April. But tonight, really, for me, as I said, it's woeful again. Rightfully, we lost. We're lacking in that creativity, the accuracy all over the park, as I've mentioned. And it leads on, Vass, in my opinion, from those poor performances that we've seen to date this season, which is now, I think, alarmingly concerning. And I think ultimately we got what we deserved tonight, which was nothing. And although we did press at times, there was no real creation. And we were so poor in that final third. And we were also exposed massively in that defence, as we saw in those final 2 or 3 minutes. Vass, do you think that's a bit of a wake-up call for the squad?
I didn't mind the defeat so much. I was concerned about the manner of the defeat. Like you said earlier, the old Spurs came back. It's one of those defeats that we've experienced from time to time, last-minute goals and capitulations. But I think there's problems all over the park. And somebody in the comments earlier said you need either a lock picker or you need creativity from your wing backs. You can't have neither. I don't really buy into this need for a lock picker because I believe this system can work if you've got the right pieces. And you've only got to look at Liverpool. I mean, who's their lock picker, really? Don't really have one. It's Trent Alexander on one side, Robertson on the other. You've got some hard workers in the middle of the pitch, and then they're attacking 3 or 4 do the business. So the system can work. We've got issues on both flanks currently because I don't think Perisic had a great game either. He's kind of playing like a 33-year-old sometimes. I know the man is talented. He's a good quality international player. We may have just snapped him up at the wrong time. I think he can do wonders for Sessegnon's development, though. Today, apart from that one cross that Harry Kane should have got on the end of, nothing really came from that side. Some of his balls down the line were wasteful. On the other side, Emerson broke in a few times. He got one decent cross in, but you really need more. You need more from both flanks, and we're not really getting it at the moment. And this is a problem. But I think there's no fluidity to our play, and that's what's been the problem this season. Towards the end of last season, if fans can recall that far, because I think we suffer from short-termism a lot of the time, we were banging in goals for fun. 5 against Newcastle, 4 against whoever, another 3, another 4. We were banging in goals for 5 against Norwich.
4. Yeah.
Everything was flowing. Everything was fluid. But for now, it doesn't seem to be working that way. And Sonny's getting a lot of stick. Yes, he's not on form. I fully agree with that. But in the first 6 minutes today, we had Richarlison try to play one round the corner to him. We had Kane try to play one of his passes in behind to him, and we had Romero try to play one of his longer passes from the back to him. This was in the first 6 minutes. None of those 3 passes got through. Those passes were being made last season. And there just seems to be a lack of quality in what we're doing, a lack of fluidity. Everything seems to be a bit bitty. And when it pays off great because we generally score decent goals. And you've only got to look at the performance against Fulham. How many chances did we create that day? But the football was flowing on that day. And this is the problem we've had so far this season. It's just not flowing. Even Richarlison today did some great work with the ball, managed to get himself free, and then 2 or 3 times just gave the ball away. And it's this kind of situation. And our creativity seems to want to come from Kane. This is the man who pulls the strings for Tottenham Hotspur when we are playing well. And today, his passing throughout the game was very poor. He had opportunities. He got into nice pockets where he could play in Son or Richarlison or one of the wing backs or whatever, and it just wasn't happening. Like Jay said earlier, the grass felt like it was 2 inches too long a lot of the time with our passing, and it's affecting us.
I mean, like I said, in this show, we're going to try our best to kind of dissect, as I said, the performance and some of Conte's tactics, which I know are massively up for debate on the back of what we've just watched. Cracks, coming over to you. I mean, we kind of said it in the intro between us there that we've kind of got our uppance, and it's been coming from very early on in the season, if we're honest. We've rode our luck numerous times, and, we do, I think, deeply need to take this result and use it as a wake-up call. And we have to improve big time if we've got big ambitions for the season. I think what also hurts is the fact, those 2 goals in the final 3 minutes, the way in which we've conceded them is just really unacceptable. And we throw away what could be deemed as a really very important point on the road in Europe. And just overall today, I've said it before, too many technical mistakes, not playing well, caught sleeping in the final moments. You know, Conte last season, towards the end there, Spurs were a club that were in a real ascendancy. Everybody knew their jobs. They knew how they were playing. There was a real structure to the way we were moving the ball. And as Vass said, there was a fluidity about Tottenham. We haven't really played fluid, if we're being honest, throughout 90 minutes at all this season. And I do feel, Cracks, you know, that defeat was in the post today. And I really, really hope that, you know, in a way that's going to help in terms of making an adjustment or a correction moving forward now. Because either we have to play better or we are going to start losing more games. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We can't carry on this level of performance throughout the next few weeks because we'll get found out, right?
Exactly. You say that performance was in the post. Well, at the West Ham away game, the postman just happened to put a letter to us through next door's door by mistake because they could have nicked that right at the end as well. The ball right across the line and come away from there and think to yourself, you know, they were there for the taking and we nearly actually lost that. So it has felt the Fulham game was a bit different. There was as Jason said and Vaz said, there was that fluidity to us. But then when it's not there, it stinks. It just looks rotten. And I don't know, it's just, why can we not just change it up a little bit earlier? 5 subs. So if we're not pulling any trees up, nothing wrong with going against what you always want to play with these wing backs if it's not happening. Make a couple of changes. Why not drop Kane a bit deeper? Because, I mean, he's Kane and he is De Bruyne. He's got a fabulous pass on him. So put Richarlison and Sonny up top and let him drop in and maybe just come through the middle a little bit more with Kane and see if he can't pick the lock, as you say, and just try and mix it up a little bit. But he's just so hell-bent all the time on this wing-back system, but without the personnel to do it. Rawls not the answer. He's just not doing it. As Vaz said, Perisic was off of it tonight, and I'll go against Vaz a bit. I think he's still got a season or two in his legs, as we said before. He's unbelievably fit. You know, he's in such good nick for his age. So that is there. It didn't help that he's had an off night tonight. But listen, just change it up a little bit. But he won't. He will not do it. And like I said at the top of the show, if Mourinho got absolutely slaughtered for not changing things up, he would get hammered for it. So would Nuno. And that means Conte has to as well. He has to be questioned on this. And it was just, if it's not working, try something else. Give something else a little bit of a go. Especially this season with 5 subs. I mean, you change out, like literally change half a team. It's there's lots of things going. Even with Hugo, I love Hugo. I really do love him. But I've never been convinced by him being captain, Rick, as a goalkeeper. I just don't see. I want to see a captain in the middle of the pitch. I want in amongst everybody.
When a game is turning against you, you need that leader in the part. I totally agree.
Yeah, because he can't get round into people's ears, can he? You know, he can't go over, especially if you're playing some younger players coming through as well. You know, if Cesc comes on instead of Perisic and it's not quite right, if you've got a captain now, he can go over. Hugo can't do that in goal. I don't, people are going to say, oh, he wants Hugo. I don't. I still think he's a top-class goalie.
As we saw, he kept us in it very later on. He didn't got us the point at the end. I think, Cracks, you're right. I mean, from that perspective, definitely leaders in the park. These are the nights you need them. Champions League away. This is where you want your men to step up in that middle. The likes of Højbjerg, Kane, the Sons. These are all quite experienced players now. These guys have actually played in the Champions League for quite a number of years.
I was going to say, Rick, though, but when you become experienced enough on that, you shouldn't necessarily need the armband to do it.
That's fair.
You should have captains all over the pitch. There's enough. There's enough people out there in Højbjergs and Bentancurs and that. Bentancurs won how many titles for Juve and things. There's enough on the pitch
Perisic as well, of course. We can't forget.
Perisic is on there. So I get what Crackers is saying, but you shouldn't have to have the captain's armband. I mean, the really good teams, the really great teams, you know, they have 6 captains on the pitch, not just the goalkeeper. So in that respect, that's the I like I say, I get what Crackers says, and it's never a popular position to be the captain, the goalkeeper, but that's that. You know, others can't hide behind that. Oh, I'm not the captain, so I can't speak. Of course you can. Of course you can, and you want players to do that.
Yep, I agree. I mean, Vass, I know you want to come back in there. Vass, did you want to come back in there, Vass?
I was just going to echo what Jason said. I don't think you really need the armband. I mean, you can't have players like Højbjerg, you know, playing the role of Viking and leader and then bemoaning the fact that someone like him isn't wearing the armband in the middle of the pitch. So sorry to go against you there, Crackers, but I think it's more than that, really. I think, as I said, Conte has this way of playing, it seems, and we've heard a lot about his tactics and his automations and the pre-scripted passes that he wants his players to do and whatever. And I don't know whether sometimes that's just kind of nullifying the spontaneity of football. When it works, it's great. It's entertaining. There's goals at the end of it, and we all love it like we did last season. This season, for some reason, it's not happening. It's not firing, and we're feeling different. I think Crackers was also saying about changing it up. But if you cast your minds back, even when Conte was at Chelsea, he rarely changed his team. Now, back then, he was quite fortunate in not having any European football.
Yep.
But he loves the consistency of the same side, his strongest side, essentially. But there are issues. If you haven't got the strong wing backs that we desire, and you've got a midfield 2 who in some games have been overrun by a midfield 3, then you do need to change it up, and you do need to react, and you do need to do something different. And he's been reluctant to do that. Crackers is quite right. There's 5 subs that were allowed this season. And you really want to see Bissouma, for example, coming on before the 86th minute in games, if you're going to actually give him the game time so he can sort of become comfortable in Conte's system. He needs game time. So, yeah, we do have issues, as I said earlier, with the fluidity in our play. But there's no one problem to it. I think there's a lot of little problems that we haven't ironed out yet, and a few players aren't at their peak.
Can I ask you just one thing, Vass, before I move on? Like I say, we're going to discuss the subjects about subs in a second. But Vassy, are you concerned by how lethargic we're looking? Bearing in mind we've had the City game off. You'd think we'd come into this game really, really fresh. He's picked almost the same team, bar one change. But we look incredibly slow, tired to the degree where it looks like we've actually just played a game and then been asked to come back out again and play.
Well, I don't know if he's training them too hard. This was an issue at the start of the season, if you remember, and in pre-season too. But that's all the more reason for him to use his substitutes and his replacements. The play is slower. I think the game's become more tactical. I don't think you can go gung-ho much anymore. All the teams in the Premier League, all the teams in the Champions League have all improved, as have we. It's just getting a little bit harder to win games. And we are making hard work of it. If you can't make your passes, if you can't find the openings to get your players through on goal, for example, then you're going to make life difficult for yourself. I think it looks like we're lethargic, but I think that it's just some slowness in our play and slowness up here. Because if we're taking an extra touch, if we're taking an extra touch when we don't need to, then it appears as though we're playing slowly. And also, one final thing, I don't know whether, because this season is going to be quite a long season, a lot of games, Champions League, Premier League, domestic cups, then we've got that break for the World Cup, then we're coming back again. So I don't know whether Conte's in the back of his mind thinking, I've got to manage the fitness of these players this season. I've got maybe don't go at it full tilt every game and just pick and choose. But I don't know whether that's the right strategy, if that is a thought that is crossing him.
I know many are asking, can we dive into more in terms of Conte itself? I think that time has come. I mean, listen, it is time to talk about Conte and maybe the subs and the element of them, because Jay's coming over to you. Listen, I know you've always been, for you, football first, maybe the results secondary to some degree. I know you obviously want Spurs to win, but for you, it is about playing a brand of football that is exciting, it's free-flowing. I feel like I'm going back to that I feel like I'm going back to that CV that Spurs released, obviously in the summer, about what they were looking before Nuno came along, bless him. But we've finally got a squad. You'd feel that have got capable players, and it does feel to some here that I'm kind of seeing comments here that they're not being used in the right way or applicable based on the amount of games we've got here. Now, I mean, when you take into account that, as I said to Vass there, we just look so tired, knackered, lethargic. And it does feel like, this is the result of what happens if you continue to play players that are not in form and you don't sub them. So how much do you think Conte does need to take responsibility for the way in which Spurs are playing at the moment? Maybe not necessarily the results, because ultimately we have to again put into context here that Spurs' first defeat of the season, our first defeat since the 16th of April. And I think that's one defeat in 16. So we're just trying to keep a level of balance, but at the same time, again, analytically looking at, from Conte's perspective, what could be done to improve, Jace?
It's partly him, but I don't think it's totally down to him. Like I say, I mean, I've seen games this season where I thought, the Chelsea away game where we just never got on the front foot. And I thought tonight, even the first 20, 25 minutes against West Ham, we at least tried to get on the front foot. So I wouldn't say he's had the exact same outlook on every single game, but there's no doubt about it. When we don't play well at the moment, it is a really hard watch. And I don't know if that's purely the system, because it was the same system against Fulham where it was a good watch. I've said all season, I don't think Kane and Son are anywhere near their best level, despite Harry's goals. We're barely seeing any link-up play between the two. There was, a great example of that was the Kane kind of shot tonight from an angle where you're thinking you're not difficult to score from there, H. And he never really once looked for that ball into Son. Now, maybe Son, he wouldn't have got onto it. There was the one against Marseille in that first half where Kane kind of screwed a shot wide when he could have played Sonny in. And then when the ball does go to Sonny at the moment, he invariably seems to make the wrong decision, or it gets dispossessed. As Vass was saying, the spontaneity between those two doesn't seem to work. And maybe if you get the spark between those two, the rest of it kind of falls into place. We're reliant on that spark. But Kulusevski is the one person that has been playing well at the start of the season, and Kulusevski is the one that's made way for Richarlison. And it was a frustrating night for Richie. I think the work ethic was there, but too often, again, it was a bit right at the end, wasn't there, with Richie, where he held the ball well, cut inside, and you thought, right, do something. And then he hit a ball straight out of touch the other side of the play, and that kind of summed the performance up. But even though that pass didn't come off, if you like, and it went miles into touch, the great Tottenham, when we're really playing well, when he'd cut inside, he would have looked to go back the other way and drill a ball across the face of goal, not to smash a ball out to the right wing back, and still not really look to make that pass into the box. So I think it's a combination of the key players aren't particularly playing well, and until they play well, it won't look that great on the eye. But there's no doubt about it. The lack of substitutions. I mean, if we are looking at Emerson Royal and it is down to a wing-back system, and after 50, 60 minutes, there's no creativity from there, then you have to change it. Now, don't get me wrong, Matt Doherty may come on and play no better, but at least you think, at least I've tried to do something about it. But we just, Emerson Royal has played 90-odd minutes again tonight. And I hate to pick on one player in that respect, but you think,
you're right.
Try something different. Or change this. If you're thinking they're not really doing too much to us, they're quite happy to sit back. You could have, I know you've talked about the creative player, Rick. We could have gone 4-2-3-1, brought Kane on and played him as a 10, or brought Kulusevski on, played him as a 10, have Son and Richarlison wide, Kane as the 9. There are still ways to try and change a game, but this is what I mean. We just kind of let that game drift tonight. No changes. One change for Kulusevski. But no real change to the shape of the team, no real change to the tempo of the team, no real change to the way we played within that. It was just same old. And so it kind of just drifts by. That was the frustration.
Further to that, Rick, as well, if towards the end it looked like, right, let's get a point here, we don't even change our tactics within that, because we never went compact enough either. So we didn't sort of hunker down and go, right, let's see this one out, 0-0, a draw. And then you really, you go compact at the back, and you maybe put 4 across the back, and you just make little changes. We were still playing in that quite open wing back system then, even though we wasn't utilising them. So we just left that, even those sort of tactics, when it's like, okay, it looks like we're not going to get a win here tonight because Kane and Son and Richarlison, were 3 players with banjos, and we kept missing the cow's arse. So we just, do you know what I mean? We never got compact at the end just to see it out. We was open. Do you know, I actually think Romero got injured in that first half. He looked like he took a whack to his knee. Something went wrong with his knee, but he looked really angry. He threw the bottle away after he had a drink of water, and he was a bit tender on it for a while. So I get the feeling he might have just played through and not been actually right at it, because the second goal, he tracked the player. That's not the Romero I know. He didn't put a tackle across. So I think he may have just soldiered on.
He didn't against Fulham, though, did he? He didn't against Fulham for Mitrovic's goal.
Mitrovic's goal. So, yeah, even those tactics, you talk about changing the progressive tactics, even the defensive tactics were wrong at the end. We just never got compact enough.
It's hard to disagree. I mean, Vass, coming over to you. Listen, at times, what I will say, Spurs did press high up, and they did win the ball back quite well in that final third. But in that final third, we've been so poor ourselves at the other end, where we were wasteful. The final ball was really, really poor. And the 2 subs with the goals for Sporting really made the impact. And here we're talking about Conte in terms of, changing the system, adapting it slightly to either shore it up, to secure a point, as Crack said there, or going out to try and win the game. To be fair, as we saw, Kulusevski, he made a real impact off the bench for Spurs, but no other subs were made. And again, it kind of reflects on Conte's comments recently about the squad, that it's very strong in some areas, but not in the others. I mean, Vass, I know in terms of the performance itself, you felt coming away from it, it's maybe been a bit overblown to what it is. But overall, with the lack of substitutions, is that becoming alarming for you under Conte?
Listen, don't get me wrong. I think the performance in the end was poor because of a number of factors. Although I think that had it ended 0-0, I wouldn't have been too disappointed with the way that we had ended up playing. I don't think Sporting did enough to win the game either until the very end. But what you're saying about the substitutions, I mean, the problem with Spurs at the minute, aside from Kulusevski coming off the bench, from an attacking standpoint, there is really no one else unless you're going to upgrade your wing backs. Now, I was hoping to see Sessegnon come on at some point for Perisic, because I think we could have done with his pace down that left-hand side. And he has a tendency to get in behind at the far post when the play's coming down the right, and that would have been helpful. I think on the right-hand side, I'm kind of baffled. We were talking off air beforehand how we have yet to see Matt Doherty play. Now, I know Conte was talking up that the injury that he got to the back end of the last season was pretty bad, and he's maybe not totally over it yet. But I'd like to have seen Doherty come on for Emerson, because I think Emerson and Romero were at fault for that second goal at Sporting's. And the corner itself, I mean, you don't want to see your team concede from a set piece, for goodness sake. Hugo just pulled off a great save after poor play by both Perisic and Ben Davies to allow that shot. He's pulled off a great save, and then you concede from a corner like that where both Emerson and Kane didn't react to the man heading the ball. So as much as you want to talk about getting more players on to change things, we were our own worst enemy at the end of the day. We made 2 shocking errors at the end.
Yep.
But really, Rick, just to recap, I don't know what other options, aside from an attacking sense, aside from bringing Kulusevski on and maybe another wing back, what could we have done? He really needed to change system. He needed to go 4 at the back, play 3 in midfield, or whatever, just something 4-3-2-1 or diamonds or what have you. And sadly, Conte's a bit averse to doing that, really, isn't he?
I am just going to share the stats from the game, Jace, as we can see on the screen. I know you absolutely despise that XG stat, which, to be fair, again, is kind of a non-relevance, really, when you consider the fact Spurs conceded 2 goals in those final 2 or 3 minutes of the game. Essentially, shots apart, they were 12 each. We had the shots on target, Sporting 6-5, 11 fouls to 10 committed. I mean, Jace, from those stats, really, from our watching audience, watching this live, I mean, can you take anything away from them in terms of possession? It doesn't really paint the picture of the game, does it?
No, it's just, I mean, pretty much every single one of those is pretty even, isn't it? So, you're thinking of the game finished 0-0. That was probably about the right result. I think on the eye, they had, Hugo made the bigger saves, didn't he? I mean, he made the fantastic save that they scored from the corner from, and the save right on half-time from Marcus Edwards, where he probably got a little bit fortunate that it kind of squirmed past the post rather than inside the post. So I don't really remember their goalkeeper making a save. I know there was a one from Emerson, but it was, let's be honest, it was a pretty comfortable save, wasn't it? There was nothing their keeper had to do. And I think that's the frustration, that we've gone away to a side and you feel like they're not in the top tier of Europe. I'm not trying to belittle them, but they're not. You're right. You're not talking about Bayern Munich or Juve or Real Madrid or something. And, their record against English clubs is pretty poor. In fact, it's incredibly poor against English clubs. So you think you should be able to go there and score, or at least look like scoring. I've always said if their keeper makes 3 or 4 fantastic saves and you hit a post and things like that, well, we all know in the course of a season that can happen if you have that the Tim Krul type of game, if you like. But we never really had that goal threat, and
we had the chances, didn't we?
Change the tempo of the game. Ask somebody in midfield, bring Basuma on, so just see if he can step past one player in midfield to draw somebody out towards him or something. Not necessarily go on a great mazy ribble himself, but just to create that little half yard of space for somebody. Try, like I say, a passing as the game went on. It was that real slowness of pace of passing to feet. And I'm not saying the grass was too long, but that's what I mean. You see that, don't you, where the grass looks as though it's too long and the ball just goes so slow, and you think, zip it, wet the surface.
It was great. I tell you what, Trace, it was growing and growing by the time we reached 90 plus minutes, wasn't it? My God, it was like a field out there. It was honestly like a field. Cracks, to come over to you. Go on, Cracks.
At the start of that game, we had some turnovers, as I said at the start of the show, in the final third. Now, as Vaz said, last season, towards the back end of last season, there was maybe 3 or 4 of those. That would have been 3 or 4 goals. All day long, that would have been 3 or 4 goals. And, so they was making mistakes, but they grew in confidence. And I see some comments down the sidebar there. Emmanuel Torres, he was spot on. That Sporting grew in confidence and actually nullified us. They did actually do a really good job of nullifying us. They saw where they corrected their mistakes, and then they nullified us. So it was a joint thing of us just not being at it and them actually being quite good at nullifying us. But in European football, you will get that. It's tough. Yes. It is difficult. It's tough games. Europa League, all of them. They're tactically smart, a lot of these European teams. I know people think, it's Johnny Foreigner, we'll skittle them. So good, I live here. My boys play football here. I see what they get taught, They are good technical footballers and they'll work you out. So it was a little bit of both, really, to be honest, during the game. But we did have those early chances from their mistakes. You've got to punish them, got to.
Yeah.
That's a great point as well. Let's be honest. We struggled last week, didn't we? It was 75 minutes before we had a shot on target.
Let's be honest. If Marseille don't go down to 10, if Marseille don't go down to 10 men, where does that game go? We've got to be honest about it and be real. We try and be. Yeah.
And and as much as we will all love the domestic record that Conte has, that European record is now 15 wins in 45 games or something like that in Europe. So it does show that there is a problem with him. Maybe tactically, or not changing something that holds his sides back.
I think Cracker's made a great point about the turnover opportunities, especially early doors in the game, first 20 odd minutes. and also some in the second half. And that's what made me feel that things weren't as bad as they ended up being in the end. And that's because we were pressing them much higher up the pitch. I haven't seen us press a team that high for a while now. And we were getting these turnover opportunities. And as Crack has rightly said, last season or whenever, we would have been at the very least getting shots off on goal, never mind not scoring. But today we couldn't even find the final pass, and those opportunities were being wasted. But at least we were getting them, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's all I was going to say on that.
We've had Antonio Conte hold his post-match press conference. We're going to bring that instant reaction to you right now. So Conte has said after the game, live to journalists, he said the Champions League is a level high. You know that you have to reduce the mistakes because in the end, you can pay. Tonight, we paid a lot. Now we are talking about a loss against a team that showed they are used to playing this competition. He went on to say, we have to analyse the game well, and the players know that this is an important level. It's right to continue to improve this process. Don't forget last season, we lost against Mora in the Conference League. I think we're still getting therapy for that. And we made an important step forward. He then finally went on to say, I think the game in the first half was imbalanced between the two teams. Honestly, in the second half, we felt the opportunity to get the 3 points and win the game. We had the chances to score, but in the end, we are talking about a loss. He said, I also want to say my players, the details move the final result. I think that maybe we didn't deserve to win, but at the same time, we didn't deserve to lose this game tonight. Jace, do you agree with those sentiments from Conte?
Yes and no. I'm not so sure we deserve to lose a game. You see those stats. But the fact is we did lose it.
Did we deserve to win it, though?
No. We didn't do enough. We didn't do enough to win it. I think the game was kind of petering out. But we did lose it. You have to accept that. And yes, you have to sit down with the players and analyse why. But you have to maybe sit down with your coaching staff before that and analyse why as well, and think, could we have done something as well as the players have done something? You got to be honest as a whole group, not just try and shift the blame onto the players for that one.
Absolutely fair point. Well, what we will just do is we are just going to go for it'll be our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. For our watching audience here on YouTube, we've got a good 700 to 800 of you taking in the therapy. Once again, thank you so much for all of your support from Last Word on Spurs. We really, really do appreciate it. We're joined by the wonderful Jason McGovern, Mr. Richard Cracknell, who is back in Spain now. Hasta la vista. He's back in his seat and he's had to witness that for 90 plus minutes. And we're also joined by a man that's used to giving therapy out by the name of his podcast name, and that's Vass Koni over at the Dr. Tottenham podcast. Dare we ask Vass what's coming at Leicester? My God, to come. We will be covering that during the show. Before, like I say, we dive into some of the players' performances, maybe a little bit of the story of the game, and then look ahead to Leicester. Just a reminder, of course, had you ever need reminding that we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Now, last week I gave you that story saying to you that you are going to need Nord throughout Spurs' European journey. What I didn't tell you is I didn't tell you which European journey that will be, whether it will be the Champions League or the Europa League. So you cannot hold me to that at all at the moment, bearing in mind the performance like that tonight and for 70 minutes last week. But again, of course, with Nord, they do allow you to secure your phone. You are able, of course, to, like I say, change your location settings where you can get numerous discounts from the likes of Spotify, YouTube. Again, check out and see all the different availability you've got for sports. We know Jason, of course, loves his underwater volleyball. I know Cracks is desperate to get involved, and tell me what else he loves using VPN. Cracks, you want to come in there?
Well, I'm just wondering if you can select Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan for your VPN location, because it looks like that's where we're going to be heading
for 95 minutes.
For our European football location. So we might as well set our VPNs as to where we're heading on a Thursday night if we carry on playing like that. But Nord is good. Buy Nord. Very good.
Absolutely. Just again, a reminder for our watching audience, you can get yourself an exclusive discount by going to nordvpn.com/LWOS to get yourself a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 months free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Right, guys, I'm conscious that it's not easy to, as I do a podcast on the back of that game. We've just got to say, just have a quick look at the team itself. We're going to squeeze in the overall performances and then look ahead to Leicester. Vass, let's actually come over to you. We're going to put the team on the screen now. So it was just the one change for Spurs ahead of this game, with Ben Davies in for Clement Longley. Son Heung-min started alongside Harry Kane and Richarlison. with DJ and Kulusevski named on the bench once again. I think the argument, of course, before the game was Kulusevski was arguably Spurs' most informed attacker during those first 5 games, and therefore he could count himself really unlucky once again to have started on the bench for now the last 3 games in what you feel was a big, big night for Heung-min Son. You feel Conte had that decision to make up front, and he had, like I say, that decision where he said earlier in the week with Son, he's got no concern about having to rest Son when he was asked that question about rotation. And again, for Kulusevski, he was back on the bench. Richarlison in the side, of course, following his 2 goals in the match against Marseille, which really made him undroppable, really, for this one. And a good stat about Emerson Royal, for those that are wondering how he's still getting in Conte's team. Well, Emerson Royal has now started Spurs' last 17 games in all competition. That's a run going back to stemming from the 5-1 victory against Newcastle on the 3rd of April. It feels a long time ago now. So maybe we should get used to the fact that Emerson at the moment seems to be Conte's man. He really, really does. And like I say, that team read from left to right: Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Davis, Emerson, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Perisic, Richarlison, Kane and Son, with a bench of Forster, Sanchez, Longley, Tanganga, Sessegnon, Doherty, Spence, Skip, White, Basuma, Kulusevski, Hill. Vass, overall, thoughts on that team when it came out?
I think Conte said something along the lines of the fact that we had no game at the weekend, the Man City game having been postponed, has led him to pick a different team tonight to the one that he probably had in mind. I suspect some of these players would have been rested tonight. I think we would have seen Bissouma in the side and maybe Sessegnon. But as it was, the game being postponed at the weekend allowed Conte to essentially keep the same team and just bring in Davies for Longley. I don't really understand the insistence on keeping Bentancur and Højbjerg. I mean, those two must be so tired. They've played nearly every possible minute this season. Bentancur just missed that one game when he had a suspension. And as far as the wing backs, I think we mentioned earlier as well, why aren't we seeing Matt Doherty yet? I'm finding that really odd. I can understand maybe he's not ready to blood Jed Spence, but Matt Doherty should have made an appearance for now too. So whilst I wasn't overly surprised with the team in the end, you can understand that there was scope to make some changes as well tonight away at Sporting.
I must just again add, Sporting actually mirrored Spurs' formation and of course had ex-Spurs youngster Marcus Edwards and former Wolves loanee Francisco Trienko in their starting 11. Jace, to come over to you, there's that thing at the moment being spun that everyone's saying there's loads of games to be played, and yet Spence and Basuma have still hardly really featured on the whole. I know somebody can't fathom the logic of not switching Doherty or Spence for that final 20 minutes as opposed to Emerson. Do you have a view on that, Jace, based on that 11 for you at the moment? Is that still, in your opinion, Spurs' best 11, or do you want to see some more changes moving forward?
Well, Emerson Royal isn't in my best 11, that's for sure. I can understand. Personally, tonight I would have played Kulusevski instead of Sonny. I think Sonny last week in that Marseille game looked so far out of it. I know the sending off came from Sonny's run, but I can remember that run towards the end of that game, Sonny, when he went charging forward and he ended up passing the ball square right at the end behind somebody's feet. And you just think he looks a little bit, his decision making isn't quite there, and perhaps that's down to a confidence thing. He doesn't really seem to be taking people on at the moment. So I would have personally have picked Kulusevski over Sonny tonight and said to Sonny, ideally if we get into that position where we can play on the break with 20 minutes left because we're 1 or 2 up, then maybe that little bit of freedom will allow Sonny to perform. But, for me, Emerson Royal is nowhere near in our best 11. So I don't understand why Doherty hasn't had a chance. I don't understand why that's not happened. But and Yves Bissouma, I think we've all wanted to see Yves Bissouma come into it, and today was a chance to freshen it up. Although, as you say, having not played for the week, I love watching Bentancur, and Højbjerg's probably been game in, game out, probably one of our best players. So I get the way that he's keeping those. I think it's not so much the starting 11; it's that lack of flexibility within the game to change it up. Could you bring a little bit more tempo? Could you bring a little bit more urgency. Højbjerg and Bentancur both look tired. They've both been booked today. So you could have brought Bissouma on 65, 70 minutes and switched it up. I think that's more the frustration that we're just not using the squad at the moment to the best of our abilities.
Just an argument, Cracks. I want to ask you, Cracks, there is that obviously opinion that after the international break with October, Spurs have got 8 games. So there is that argument that maybe by then, Bissouma, Kulusevski, they're all going to get the starts that they ultimately deserved. I mean, do you agree with that kind of maybe, that outlook? Or do you think, no, they should all be bedding in right now? They should be starting games. We need to make changes based on the recent performances that you've seen.
There may be a little bit of politics going on there. Perhaps Conte behind the scenes was pushing the board to upgrade Emerson, and that might not have been that forthcoming, but they didn't quite push the boat as hard and as far as they could. So perhaps he's playing him to make sure he gets that upgrade in January. But we go out, but it is difficult to go and buy players in January. So I don't know. Perhaps he's putting some pressure on, and the club will monitor social media, and they'll see channels like this and across Twitter and everything, and they'll see that what we're all seeing with our own eyes, that Emerson isn't playing well enough because he's not playing Spence. And I do actually think that the club bought Spence. I don't think Conte bought Spence. Now, that's fine because, he was relatively cheap and a good prospect, and there's, maybe a good sell-on value with him. So I don't know. I just get the feeling there might be a little bit of politics going on behind the scenes there. With Sonny, I think he could actually achieve something by dropping him, by saying, not you're not pulling any trees up at the moment. I'm going to give you a rest, put Kulu in. And I think that might just serve as a bit of a kick up the arse to some other players that look and go, well, the gaffer's dropped Sonny. Like, Kulu's come in. Because Fergie used to do it. He had no problems dropping people if you weren't cutting the mustard. There was none of this, play him through it and see what happens. Now, I think sometimes if you do go for one of your big names and they get dropped and somebody else comes in, I think it just serves as a timely reminder to all your senior players, people like Kane now, people, at the back, like Lloris and that. Nobody should be protected by their reputation that's preceded them. So he may get a little bit of something out of the team as a whole. We might, Sonny might be on his chin straps for a couple of days over it. So, behind the scenes, what we don't see goes on. There's lots that goes on. And I just wonder if there's a little bit of internal politics at the club going on, and he keeps playing Emerson with, okay, well, if you didn't want to push the boat out again and get me that wing back, I'm going to play what you think's good enough for me to use. So, because otherwise, why not give Spence a chance? We keep hearing how good he was. And I know the Championship to Premier League is a huge, huge step. But you can see the boy's got it for days. So
well, he's only going to improve if he gets games as well, Rich, isn't it? That's that argument.
Exactly.
When is he going
to? I know we'll come on to Leicester, but I'd give him a run at Leicester because they're on their arses at the moment. They're doing nothing. So it's a perfect game to maybe drop Son and send a little message out and play Spence and see what he can do. So maybe there is. I know that the board done better this summer, and there's an argument that they could have done much better. And maybe Conte feels that a bit, and he thought, well, there's a little bit more they could have done, so I'm going to play what you left me with. Maybe.
I mean, again, we had some comments here, which we are going to share on the screen. Joe here says, all roads lead back to Enoch. They've invested to get back into the top 4 and nothing else. Dyer, Davis, Royale, not good enough, yet still starting. And I've had another comment in from Ellie who says, we're a pretty Eric Dyer, lads. Very poor in a lot of our play, and we just didn't get it right in front of goal, and our passing was dreadful. And I think, again, with Ellie, we can definitely echo a lot of those sentiments. I'm keen because, as I say, we've done a lot of talking in terms of, you say, the tactics, the setup from Spurs, but in terms of the story of the game, a minute silence was held in honour of the Queen just before kick-off. And again, due to the nature of the way we started our show, Listen, send all our sincere condolences. Losing a very, very special person, obviously in control of the country. Again, lots of all of our love and thoughts are with everybody at this time. Difficult time. Starting off the game, we actually saw Richarlison round the goalkeeper, but he was offside. And to be fair, the first half was so poor that really the only real element of any talking point was probably Marcus Edwards. I mean, Jace, to come over to you, he nearly done a Maradona, really. Went through about 5 Spurs players. Lloris saved it, and we were just really melted around him. It was a real incredible run. Pochettino once said about him, the qualities, it's only his looks, his body, the way he plays. Reminds me a little bit from the beginning of Lionel Messi. To not go too off track, because I know there's lots of different factors why it never worked out with Marcus Edwards here, maybe from a behavioural perspective and elements of, Pochettino clashing with the guy. Have we let a good player go there, Jace, based on what you saw tonight?
He would have had an extra big motivation to play tonight, obviously, which you have to factor in. But he's gone to Portugal and he's now at Sporting. He's not at Bayern Munich. He's not at Real Madrid. He's not at Juve. So there's still lots about his game that needs to develop, let's just say. That's not to say it won't develop, but he's now been playing first team football for 3 years, and he's at Sporting, and they sold, I think the bloke said they sold 145 million pounds of something in the summer. That's 145 million euros, of which Marcus Edwards wasn't one that they sold. So let's most people, let's be honest, most fans watching that tonight have seen Marcus Edwards tonight for the first time probably since I think his previous club played at the Emirates, where I think he scored that night against Arsenal in Europa. And tonight's their first time they've watched him. He did some good things tonight. He also hit a cross aimlessly behind the goal and things like that. So, and as I say, he will have been much more motivated to play tonight than he normally would be. So he looked a really promising kid tonight, which actually he looked a promising kid when he left. But I'm not so sure. I looked at Marcus Edwards tonight and thought, God, if he was still playing for Tottenham, we'd be tearing it up in the Premier League now. So let's not go totally over the top with Marcus Edwards' performance. But we all knew, Pochettino didn't make that comment lightly. We all knew what the talent was. But sometimes, if a player's not going to sign a contract and thinks he should be playing first team football at 17, 18, then, you have to react to the circumstances at the time.
Totally agree. Vass, coming over to you, just get your thoughts on him. I mean, listen, it was amazing skills from the guy that I know he's been tipped to play for England one day, but overall, the actual run he went on was a really, really good run. And to be fair to Lloris, he saved the day at the time, didn't he, in terms of that moment, because there was real concern Spurs were going to fall behind.
Yeah, actually, Lloris, I thought, got a bit lucky with that save because it hit his arm and went under his body and then passed the post. It was an amazing run by Marcus Edwards, but for me, that's pretty much the only thing he did all game. And we got commentators over this side talking him up as if he's like the next Maradona. Now, he's a very skillful kid and he looks like he's grown up. Yeah. He looks leaner and fitter. He looks like a man now, whereas when he left us, he looks a bit like a boy, and by all accounts, he was a rather petulant boy when he left. So good luck to him. I wish him every success, but I don't think he would lift Tottenham to any great degree right now. I think he still needs to do a bit more than he's doing. And like Jace says, he wouldn't be at Sporting Lisbon. He'd be elsewhere if he was that good. He'd have been identified by now.
Cracks, you got an opinion?
Adel Taarabt. Adel Taarabt.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Cracks, I see you nodding away there, listening in. Do you have a view on it, Cracks? Because to be fair, I mean, like I said, listen, he left us for dead in that move, really. If he scores that, it's been deemed as one of the wonder goals so far this Champions League season.
I cooked a steak once, Rick. It was perfect. It was seared on the outside. It was juicy in the middle. It melted in your mouth. It was beautiful. You could take a photo of it and it was everything. It was like an M&S advert, like, when they put the food up. But I'm not Gordon Ramsay. You got to do it every time, haven't you? Week in, week out. So, as Jay said, one performance, and he was going to tear it up tonight, wasn't he? He was absolutely going to tear it up because he was a bit of a Charlie Big Bananas from what you hear, and he's gone. So he had a point to prove. So, but the great players would play like that every week, they'd have a point to prove, whether it's their old club or not. You know, that's the difference. Ronaldo will try and give you that every week.
Yeah.
Or Maradona would give you that every week. Messi gives you that every week. One or two flashes in a game, you know, that's different, isn't it? So I didn't see anything throughout the game to go, oh blimey, we've missed out there. So good luck to the boy.
And Adichia says that one was obviously for Bill. That analogy there, Cracks. That one was for Bill, right? It was for Bill. I mean, generally, like I say, apart from that, we had 2 chances of Emerson Royale in that first half, and it ended up being actually Spurs having 4 chances in 8 minutes in terms of the beginning of the second half there. We had a big chance as Perisic put a terrific low cross to the face of goal that evaded everybody, including the sliding Harry Kane. Kulusevski finally came, albeit Spurs have been threatening for much more that second half, 72nd minute. And there was that argument, Vass, when he came on, and we're going to come on to player ratings in a second, that arguably Kulusevski, that opening 15 minutes when he came on, just showed so much more than what we saw from Son, really, throughout the whole period he was been on the game. Would you agree that we saw an instant impact, really, from Kulusevski entering the field?
Yeah, but I think at the moment, the way we're playing, we're going to get instant impacts from whoever comes on as sub. I'll guarantee you, if Son is dropped for Saturday against Leicester and he comes on after about 65 minutes, he'll tear it up. And that's the way it's going at the moment. Now, I'm not denying that Kulusevski isn't a great player. He is, and he's still only just turned 22. But we also had a slight change when he came on, because that meant Richarlison had to move to the left. So it's Richarlison that went into Sonny's position. And Kulusevski took over on the right. So you could then say, well, was Richarlison as effective as Son or better than Son on the left? I didn't think we got much from either of them on the left-hand side.
Fair point.
So, it's just one of those, really. As I said right at the top of the show, we're just not functioning. We're just not fluid. Our passing is off. And these first-time passes that are supposed to be playing to our strengths are just not happening. And I think we're a bit slow up here, which I mentioned earlier. We need to be faster. We need to be on it a little bit more. And we need to, I think the team isn't ticking, and I don't know why, because it's pretty much still the same team as last season. But even trying to bed in one new player or whatever sometimes can be a bit of a problem. I think we got to address it as soon as possible and try and get some fluidity back.
Do you know what, Rick?
What's great?
What's great? Go on, Jason.
You're looking through the comments. Dyer and Davis are at fault. Højbjerg and Bentancur are at fault.
Yeah.
Son and Kane are at fault.
Yeah.
And then somebody's, why are we blaming Son and Kane? Why are we blaming Davis and Dyer? Why are we blaming midfield? That's the beauty of football, isn't it? Every single player's been at fault on here, other than Hugo. Yeah. Although Cracker's had a pop at Hugo, but not in a bad way. And yet somebody else backs up every single player on here. So, we're having to go at Conte. Somebody's saying, well, don't blame Conte, it's the player. It's just amazing. You can't satisfy everyone.
There's a comment here from Alex which pretty much sums up what we were saying earlier.
Yep.
About our pressing game and pressing high. It's just that we didn't have the quality up the other end. But without meaning to divert the conversation too much, we were talking about midfield earlier, and I saw a lot of comments. I was going to mention Oliver Skipp. There was a lot of comments about Oliver Skipp earlier. And at the start of the season, we were talking about Bentancur, Højbjerg, Bissouma, and Skipp. We were all pretty much saying, as fans, per many 2 from 4 from there, you'd be happy, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But as it's turned out, we're getting Bentancur and Højbjerg every game, pretty much. And okay, Skippy's only just come back from injury, but maybe it's time that he started changing it up in the middle as well.
I think, again, you come on to that, Vass. Even with Kulusevski coming on, you did feel Sporting was sensing a winner as that game was growing late on. And to be fair, we then saw Højbjerg booked for giving away the ball, which really summed up his night. And I just feel like at that time, the game was going to be crying out for that change, like you said there, Vass, maybe to bring Bissouma on. This is a guy that was a regular present in Brighton's side last season that you just feel at the moment, Jace, maybe Højbjerg could benefit from having a little bit of a rest. But having said that, he scored already some really crucial goals for Spurs during already the early part of this season. Like you said, you're never going to please everybody. But as that game was growing and growing, Jace, could you feel that we were, more hanging on for a point rather than actually going for the win? How did you feel towards the latter stage of that game?
I didn't think we were hanging on. I mean, I thought we got away with it when Hugo made the save, but the save was on 89 minutes.
89 minutes, and we can see from the result.
It's not like Hugo made 4 or 5 saves between 75 and 90 minutes. It was kind of, oh, blimey, that was close. We've got away with that, defend a corner, and we finished the game all square. So no, I didn't feel like we were hanging on, but it was just like I say. I don't mind even the starting lineup, but it's that no flexibility within the game to think this isn't quite working. Let's try and do something different. That's all.
And then obviously, of course, we have the moment where Sporting score. Now, the first goal, as we saw, Lloris saving, but then from the resulting corner, Pedro Porro's curler around the post. To be fair, Paulino getting up highest to head home. I mean, cracks. Another goal from a set piece. I know that, to be fair to Gianni Vaio, I have to state this. Gianni Vaio works on the attacking set pieces for Spurs rather than the defensive set pieces for Tottenham. I have to emphasise that point. But always frustrating cracks in Europe. Game is at its depth there, 90 minutes. Have to see out a corner. You have to be alert. You have to have your man marking ready. And Spurs simply just weren't ready and fell asleep for the goal.
Welcome to European football, Rick. Welcome to big boys football, because the 90th minute is the first minute, is the 37th minute, is the 70th minute. Yep. And until you're walking off that pitch, every minute is crucial and every minute's the same. And I actually think it was a belting goal, to be fair to him. I mean, he's glanced it. It's perfect. He's got that little bit higher. He's wanted it that little bit more. They look like throughout the game, and they groove it. They just wanted it a little bit more, a little bit sharper. And that was the difference. And then we look beat, and then the second goal just happens, doesn't it? Because we're already beat, and we've gone looking for one, and everyone's sort of kind of given up, and their tails are up. But that's what happens in European football. They come and punish you. The moment you're that tiny little bit off of it, you get punished. In domestic games, when you play maybe lower league teams in cups or the lower end of the Premier League, you might get away with one or two. At this level, you're not getting away with them. They punished us and we never punished them. It was as simple as that. But I actually thought, to be fair, it was a very, very decent header. How much he meant it, I don't know. He sort of glanced it sort of at the top of his head more than anything, and then it's gone. And it's a killer blow at that stage of the game, isn't it? It's
like Kane's at Chelsea, wasn't it, Cracks?
Yes, very similar. Great point, Vass. Yeah, totally agree. Very, and it really it knocked the stuffing out of us. It almost did really knock the stuffing out of us. I think we weren't expecting it. I think, again, throughout the season, we've shown that resilience, that determination to always see out and get a point when we've been under the cosh or see out a win. We generally just look shell-shocked at that moment. And then, Jace, to come over to you, the second goal followed very quickly after that. A real late implosion. Gomez with a brilliant run, finishing across Lloris. I think heads had dropped really by the time that second goal will go in, Jace. I mean, do you hold anyone to account for that in terms of the way he drifted through our defence?
Well, it was pretty soft defending, wasn't it? But and actually to say, well, we'd conceded the first, so we've kind of given up. Well, even that's not good enough.
No, I agree.
But you're right. I think with that, if they don't score from the corner, they don't get the second one. But that's you can't switch off for a minute, can you? And it's still a ridiculous goal to concede, ridiculously easy. But you have to suck this one up tonight and take one or two painful lessons from it. But as I say, it's not just the players. Hopefully the staff will have a look and think, what can we do better as well?
I do wonder, Rick, if not playing Saturday actually done us no favours, because you kind of get the feel that they tailor everything to within an inch of its life, and train and they do this on Thursday, this on Friday. Get to a point where you're ready, and then you don't get the game, so you don't get that training that you've got to out of your system. And then you have to go again for the next game. So the Sunday would have been a very, very different session to what we did have coming into this game. So sometimes not playing games doesn't do you any favours, because it completely puts out of kilter all your programmes leading into one, leading out and leading into the next. So I'm wondering whether, the training was off and we wasn't quite where we wanted to be with readiness. That may have played a big part. So listen, it'd have been really tough Saturday to get something now. But that's by the by. We would have prepared for it, and it never happened. So maybe that had a bearing on it as well. I mean, it's a science now, isn't it? Getting players ready for games.
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder, Vass, there's big question marks about how Conte would be able to handle the 2 games a week. Again, European Football Champions League. Jay said it earlier. He hasn't got the greatest record in the Champions League. Do you think that's going to play a factor in how we manage these games coming up in terms of having to revert from Premier League to Champions League? I mean, Cracks says there, it might not have done us a favour to have City called off. I thought it would be an advantage to us because it would give Conte even more time to prepare and to plan for this one. Worrying, Vass, again, the implosion at the end?
The implosion at the end was very worrying. I don't know whether that was really down to Conte per se or more just the players switching off. But in terms of the fixture that are coming up, you mentioned October earlier. October's looking frightening. So Conte is going to have to get more comfortable in rotating and using his squad. So that's on him. He's got to do that. He can't keep sitting there saying, for example, so-and-so's not ready, Bissouma's not ready. Because it's not going to, if you don't give them game time, they'll never be ready. So he's got to find ways to start integrating these players willingly.
Yeah, agree. No, I agree. Just in terms of some of the players' performances, we mentioned Lloris really one of the only players to come out of any credit on that. I know, again, for our live listeners and watching audience here of over 600, 700 of you watching us live, I know Lloris really the only one of coming out of any real sincere credit from that game. Christian Romero, again, we've said it tonight, wasn't really his commanding self, we're being honest with you. Eric Dyer, you know what? Again, Dyer, you want leaders to step up tonight. I thought, to be fair, at the back line in those real pivotal moments, I thought Dyer had a bit of an off night on his return to Sporting. Ben Davies, to be fair, I mean, he had his hands full tonight with Marcus Edwards. And, I do think, again, going forward, really didn't offer much. Davies, we're being honest with you, obviously was in tonight for Longley. Emerson Royale, I know he's always going to split opinions. Some feel, again, with Emerson, you're never going to get anywhere near what you want out of him in terms from an attacking perspective. But tonight, I mean, again, he's found himself on the edge of the box tonight with an opportunity and he couldn't quite, finish it off, putting it over the goalkeeper. Second half, he gets a couple of chances, but it is the same old story with Emerson. You just feel the bluntness in front of goal is a real frustration with Emerson. And I don't know whether we're all going to get over that. I think we have to maybe accept, Jax, that is Emerson, right? I mean, he's just... I don't know what it is. I mean, we keep thinking he's going to keep maybe improving to some degree under Conte. And I think, again, defensively, I've not got a problem with Emerson, but the forward-thinking nature of him just isn't quite there. And we've got Perisic tonight, to be fair. I think overall was one of Spurs' better players. But again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Really under par performance. Defensively, Jace, you got any alarming bells from the defence?
I just think we've done it now. Kind of gone through them all now. Just move on to Leicester.
Okay, we've got Leicester. We haven't got Leicester to come.
The cricket's on.
One thing we do before look to Leicester. Heung-min Son. We haven't really touched on Sonny tonight. I mean, just want to get. Well, I mean, just generally, what's our thoughts overall? Whether you feel now is the time that he does get a rest ahead of Leicester. Vass, we'll start with you. Sonny.
Yeah, I think we maybe should arrest him against Leicester. However, Son has not become a bad player overnight, and fans need to remember this. Okay, he's going through a dry patch. We get it. He's not looking great at the moment. We get it. And as I said at the top of the show, the issues are systemic. It's in our play. We're not fluid. Sonny relies on us being fluid. Those first-time balls behind the defence that he can run onto. The quick interplay between him and Kane, or him and Richarlison, or Decky, or whoever it might be. And this is not happening because our play is somewhat stifled. It's not sort of peak Spurs at the moment. It's anything but. And I think he's a victim of that. But yes, he's not playing well. He probably needs to just sit on Saturday and then come on after 65 minutes, and I bet he scores.
Okay, we'll discuss Sonny more when we go for our Leicester preview, which we're going to go for right now for the sake of Jason McGovern. I think, like I say, we've done Lisbon to death. Quite literally, we have done Lisbon to death. What we will just do is we will just go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. For our watching audience, there's still a good 600, 700 of you across all of our platforms. It's nearly 10 o'clock in the evening here. Thank you so much for all your time. I know we've overrun, boys. Please accept my apologies, Jason, Cracks, Vass. I know these boys are used to it. Thanks so much for these guys taking out their time. Thank you so much for our wonderful watching audience. Taking you into this final break of the show, you're going to hear from Lee Chappie, the Jamie Vardy lookalike, how he wishes he could try and get some goals for Leicester the way it's going. And you're also going to hear from Jamie from Leicester TV, I spoke to earlier, who, to be fair, I know you won't believe this, he was as downbeat as what we're all feeling now, and he's bottom of the league at the moment. So, guys, let's discuss Leicester. Let's discuss more happier times, hopefully, ahead for Spurs, fingers crossed. The game, of course, is going to be going ahead this weekend, hence why we are doing the preview. We know, of course, United, Leeds, obviously, unfortunately, suffered. So has Chelsea, Liverpool, and Brighton. Palace, but I was already going to be off due to a proposed rail strike. Don't look all at Crackers. Not his fault. Those 3 games remain off as things stand. But Spurs are facing Leicester at the weekend. Cracks, an opportunity to eradicate this defeat very, very quickly. Thoughts on Leicester? I mean, they're bottom of the league at the moment. Rodgers under massive pressure. I'd not quote Vass's podcast deliberately here, which I will be doing later in the show. Dr. Tottenham, not going to see us now, are they, Vass? Or not, if he's now correct.
Wow.
Vass?
Well, thankfully, Dr. Tottenham seems to become a diminishing return, doesn't he? He was always there, and I wanted to add that that's not Vass's fine pod. That's the actual Doctor or mystical one that we talk of. It's listen, if you can't skittle Leicester at home, then you are really in the madhouse, isn't you? So it kind of is a perfect game to come back to. It might be a perfect game to look at a couple of players like Spence and see what they can do. Get back to the lane, get this out of our system. And I mean, if we don't take 3 points against them and it's another poor performance, then we have got some issues. So I can't see Conte allowing that team to have 2 performances like tonight on the trot. I just can't. So, as you said with Sonny, is he rotated? Is he rested? Or is he dropped? I mean, that's down to Conte, how he frames the narrative on that, isn't it? Which way he throws it. To the press and to us, he'd probably be rotated and refreshed. Behind the scenes, he might be, he might just well drop him and try and send a bit of a message. Who knows? Then again, he might, Conte, sometimes it does seem like he could be a bit of a stubborn old goat, and he'll probably just put the same team out as tonight again and just go like, well, this is what I get paid the money for. I don't care what 4 people sat around Mike say on the internet. I'm doing what I want to do. And if you don't like it, see you later. So I'm off. So let's see.
What, you're telling me Conte's not listening? I thought he's watching now, isn't he?
He's an avid viewer. Yeah,
we'll pack this up and go home then if he's not watching. Oh, we'll go home then.
It's quite amazing the people we found out that watch this, Rick, isn't it? Down the months and years, actually. Yeah, not for us to give away who they are, but you think to yourself, blimey, I never knew they watched and listened. So who knows? They might be using a pseudonym in the chats there, just to hide who they are.
But honestly, that's conscious of time. Leicester, listen, they've had a really, really poor start to the season under Brendan Rodgers. Every time I say conscious of time, I look at Jason. He's ebbing away now. But generally, Leicester really struggling. You do feel every game they have under Rodgers, it's almost like the guy looks like he's literally on the way out at the moment. Do you expect in-force changes, Vass? The likes of maybe Spence coming in, changing up that midfield? Because we said earlier, I mean, Bentancur, to be fair to him tonight, he was better on the ball than Højbjerg, but he really failed to get any attacks going. Do you want to see maybe some changes for that midfield ahead of the game against Leicester on Saturday?
Well, I'd like to bring Bissouma in. I'm not sure who for. Maybe give Højbjerg a rest, perhaps. But, everybody's been mentioning Jed Spence. And quite frankly, I don't see him playing much this season. I think we need to leave that one alone. I think, if anything, it's going to be a rotation between Matt Doherty and Emerson Royale.
That's going well at the moment, isn't it?
Well, it isn't going at all, is it, really?
No. When's that going to start, do you reckon?
I don't know, mate. Listen,
it's mad. I mean, Emerson has started the last 17 games, Vass.
17 games, yeah, I know.
17.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah. Listen, I don't think he's that bad a player. I might be out on an island here. I know Sam from our pod has just named his new bike after Emerson Royale. But he's got a soft spot for Brazilians, as Sam. But anyway, I don't think he's that bad a player, but he obviously isn't as good as we'd like him to be on that side. Yeah. Now, as far as Leicester goes, I think Brendan Rodgers is under a lot of pressure. I think a lot of Leicester fans want him gone, and he's behaving like a man who wants to get the boot, I think. But it'll still be tough on Saturday because I don't think Leicester like us very much. They never have. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Jace, coming to you finally. I know you're imploring for the end. Jace, Leicester.
Leicester game kicks off in 5 minutes, doesn't it?
Depends. It really does depend.
We might as well just stay on air.
Yeah,
watch it. Stay on air.
You boys can do Leicester, can you? Well, not 45 minutes of that first half again. Jesus Christ. Jace, thoughts on Leicester?
I think Leicester will be quite similar to the Fulham game. I think we'll be fine. I think Leicester they're not a side that Brendan Rodgers never really wants to park a bus, does he? I've never really seen him do that and try. I think Leicester still have that idea of trying to play on the foot themselves. Your mate's playing. So your mate who would have solved all our problems in the summer's playing.
Oh, Maddison will play, yeah.
You can see Mr. TikTok playing. No, I think they'll come, but I think there's big problems at Leicester, and I don't think all their problems are down to Brendan Rodgers. Obviously, they've had to rein in the old spending to a degree, and that's had a knock-on effect. So Leicester's, I mean, for them to lose Kasper Schmeichel and still not buy a goalkeeper to replace him, and you look at what they buy Smith, or they got Smithies on a free from Cardiff. Yep. Danny Ward looks awful. Everson looks awful. You saw them absolutely ripped one by Brighton. So I think we'll win the game. I think we'll win the game comfortably in terms of the manner of the win. It's just whether we score the goals that it reflects in the scoreline. But what did we do last year? Was that when Sonny got hat-trick and we beat them 3 or 4-0, didn't we, towards the end of the season?
I'm trying to think, Leicester last season now. We won it with Bergwijn, didn't we? Bergwijn.
No.
That was the away game.
The home game. Sonny, the wonderful goal from Sonny at the lane.
Yeah, big Romero tackle, and we won it 3 or 4 or whatever. So I think it'll be that similar type of game again, and I think we'll be fine Sunday, and that should then, the acid test will be the following Saturday.
Absolutely. Jace, kick us off with a prediction then. Go on, I know you've been waiting. What are you going for Saturday?
I'll go 3-0 Tottenham.
3-0 Tottenham, okay. Nice one, a bounce back. Cracks, let's go to you next. Cracks, what are you going for Saturday?
As long as odd carriers bring the bricklayers some bricks up front, so the midfield a little bit progressive and give them some service, because that is part of the problem as well. Yeah, listen, let's go for a nice big win, but then we'll always let one in. I'll go 3-1.
3-1. Cracks, keep it conservative. Vass, let's go over to you. What are you going to go for, Vass?
I hate it when you make me do predictions, Rick.
I know you do. Sorry. I have to apologise.
I'll go 2-0. Obviously, I'm hoping for a big win, but I'll keep it a little bit conservative. We need to bag 3 points, though. Yeah. No question.
Absolutely. And Vass, I know you'll be giving us the lowdown. Would it be Sunday for you boys? Sunday, you boys on the pod?
Sunday evening we'll be airing our pod on YouTube, and it's also available on all the usual audio pod channels as well.
Amazing. Make sure you check that out. One of the first pods to drop, the Tottenham podcast, with Vass being part of that. You are going to see Vass a lot more this season, depending on if he stands me up after the performances like tonight. But Vass is part of the Champions League panel. Look at the delight. Vass is part of the Champions League panel. Look at the dismal faces of Cracks and Jason thinking, well, I've got to do this as well still. Yeah, sorry, boys. It's not all going to be fun and games on Champions League nights. Just to give a roundup, actually, Marseille losing again tonight. So it actually means Spurs still sit in second place of that group. Frankfurt currently in third. So at the moment, Spurs, it's 2 games in. We would be going through on goal difference. So I suppose in a way, let's try and maybe keep it into context. Still a lot of games to play there. I mean, again, what hit Jace on average? 9-12 points you need, Jace? normally to qualify?
I think 10 you look at and you think if you get 10 points, you'd be pretty hard pushed. The only way you'll go out with 10 points is if one team loses all 6 games. So as long as everyone picks up points, 10 points should always be enough.
Yeah.
But we will need to. We need to get something in an away game. That's for sure.
Yeah. You still confident, Jace, overall? Are we confident?
Yeah.
Very quick.
Yeah.
I'm
confident we'll go through the group.
Yeah.
I'm confident.
I think so as well. I mean, you've got to remember the year we got to the final, we had 1 point from 3 games.
Very good point. Yeah.
So anything could happen. There's a long way to go, but I think if we do our home games, then all we're going to need to do is turn up in one away game. So I think we've got that in us.
Tonight actually was similar. If I remember rightly, that year the year with Inter, weren't we 1-0 up at Inter on 89 minutes and ended up losing it 2-1, didn't we?
Yeah, nice one, Joe.
They scored 2 in 2 minutes or something. One of them was a corner as well, if I remember rightly.
So, that's great.
Yeah.
Cracks, you still confident of going through?
Yeah, we should make that, shouldn't we? We should, as Vaz said, win your home ones, get something in an away game, and you're home and hosed, and then look out Real Madrid, because here we come. And off the back of tonight's performance, I bet they're quaking in their boots, aren't they? So, we should get through. And then, as I said to the BBC Radio London, the interview we'd done before the Marseille game, said to them, you can put all the whistles and bells and stars and, choral music to this. In essence, it's a cup competition. Same as any other cup competition, and mad things happen like Ajax, and mad things happen like Liverpool in their semi-final. Mad stuff does happen. So listen, you have to dare to dream. You get through. You get a lucky late one if you've shored up against somebody, like we did against Man City, like we did against Ajax. We just have to go that lucky one more time, don't you? So it is just a cup competition at the end of the day. Treat it as such.
Absolutely. Well, guys, let me just say again to Jace, to Vass, to Cracks, thank you so much, boys, for your time. No, it's never easy coming on the back of a defeat, especially when they're getting these shows longer. So please accept my apologies. We have to rein them back down, of course, for the late nights we've got to come for those Champions League games, as Jason will, I know, agree. Vass and I definitely agree. Vass is definitely nodding. Cracks is all right. Well, especially on performances like that, we'll definitely have to rein them down to 25 minutes, half hour. We could have done only half hour on that performance tonight. But again, thank you so much for all the love, for all the comments. We're back with you on Saturday night. Jason's put the lights out.
Jason's got the bed.
We are back with you on Saturday night for instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur against Leicester City. Let's hope we're back to winning ways. Guys, thank you so much for all your support again from the wonderful Jason McGovern, from the superb Vass Koni, and from the wonderful Richard Cracknell. Guys, keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.